All the Office of Personnel Management is asking, all this administration is asking, President Trump is asking, is for federal workers who live off of the American taxpayers' dime to send 5 bullet points of what they have done in the previous week. That is all we are asking for.
Look at all of you standing here asking me why people are upset to answer to their boss, the American people, and the President of the United States, what you've done at work.
What?
What a ridiculous thing.
I don't know if you know this or not, but everybody, all the outrage over the email, do you know why he did it?
To make sure people are actually doing their jobs.
Everything that Elon Musk does is for a reason. But
if you're not checking your emails, then you're not working. And if you can't reply to an email, then what are you doing? And if you don't have 5 bullet points of what you did last week, then obviously you don't need a job.
Just like big balls and hairy balls.
Flashback.
The disruptor-in-chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Hairy Balls, tweeted this morning, "Democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. An activist judge is not a real judge."
And he got the mainstream media to say what he wanted them to say. Yeah. He does what he does on purpose. And it is usually not clearly identified when he does it until he gets the response and reaction that he's after, which was to prove a point that there are countless employees that don't exist.
That don't exist, or
just
that have
like,
a job and don't deserve it.
But just like the Social Security paying people who are over 300 years old, he's doing this to see, if you're not even checking your email, then I have to assume you're not even here.
A few moments later.
Doge is getting pushback for his latest demand. He gave federal employees a little more than 48 hours to respond to an email listing 5 things they accomplished at work in the past week.
The Office of Personnel Management did confirm it is asking employees to send a brief summary of what they did. The deadline, as seen on this post, is the end of Monday. The note does not mention the threat of terminations, though. In fact, the OPM says agencies will determine the next steps. Musk's directive comes after President Trump urged him to be more aggressive, despite Doge gaining access to more than a dozen federal agencies and the firings of thousands of federal workers.
I don't think this is a request that is that difficult. I would ask my employees to let me know what they're doing. But I will double down on the fact of we don't need to be so cold and hard, and let's put a little compassion and, quite frankly, dignity in this as well.
But there is confusion surrounding this order. New FBI Director Kash Patel, for instance, is telling agency personnel to pause any responses to the OPM's emails, saying the FBI is going to do its own interviews in accordance with its own procedures.
You have people doing this, pointing in each direction. You do this, you do that. It shows that, again, this type of idea of Musk coming in there with the chainsaw that he was famously brandishing at a political event in Washington, D.C. this week, it's a lot more complicated than that. Running government's a lot more complicated than that.
Why? An email from abusive of federal workers, and it is just plain wrong.
And it's random.
It's abusive.
It's random.
It's abusive. Yes, I do. I do think that. I think the way that they are. Yeah, I think the way that they are treating them.
Why?
How is this abusive?
Scott, have you ever gotten an email from someone that said, you better do this or else you're going to resign?
Yeah, it's called having a boss in the private sector.
From someone who's not your boss?
The White House is every federal worker's boss. That's number one.
Elon Musk is not anybody's boss.
Scott, how is Elon going to evaluate? I mean, how is he going to evaluate the work of thousands of federal employees when he has no idea what they do?
He's not. The test was, are you even paying attention to your email? Are you even at your terminal?
Some federal workers, he sent it on a weekend. Some federal workers do not have access to their emails on the weekends. They just don't.
Did they go to work today? I mean, look, the amount of outrage, melting down, and sort of outpouring of emotion over this ought to tell you everything you need to know. We had a lady on CNN today, a supposed federal worker, who said she was infuriated by getting this email. She had time to go on CNN, but she didn't have time to send a 30-second email saying, well, here's what I was working on last week. This is what people in the private sector have come to hate about how they view the public sector. And I think there's a great many very dedicated public servants. But you said, it's about control. Yes, it's about control, and it's about finding out who is actually at their job working and who isn't, and do we need all these people?
It's actually pretty funny. It's genius. It's simple. It's exactly what happened. Elon Musk got what he wanted by asking the right questions, or at least saying the right things that he inevitably knew the media and the left would, liberals would, after they wiped the tears from their eyes, would cry outrage. But what some folks failed to really, either they overlooked, they ignored, or they were just so blinded by rage, they didn't realize that Elon Musk said by 11:59 p.m. Monday. He sent the email over the weekend. Who cares? But Monday is Monday is the day you go to work. So whether the email was sent on Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, doesn't matter. You had until the end of the day, Monday. So if you come to work and every one of those federal employees doesn't have access to your email over the weekend, that's fine. But you ought to be checking your emails on Monday, especially if you see one coming from Elon Musk.
Meanwhile,
last night Elon Musk said that a failure to respond a second time will result in termination. Will there be additional rounds of the what did you do this week email from Doge to federal workers? And what's the guidance on the federal workers who've been instructed by their agencies not to reply? So a couple of things on this. First of all, let's just take a step back and talk about this idea. The president sent out a truth last weekend to Elon Musk saying he loves everything Elon is doing and he wants him to be even more aggressive because Doge thus far has proven incredibly successful in making our government more efficient. And so Elon and Doge came up with this idea. Elon has implemented this at his private companies. It has proven successful. And it's a very simple idea when you think about it. All the Office of Personnel Management is asking, all this administration is asking, President Trump is asking, is for federal workers who live off of the American taxpayers' dime to send 5 bullet points of what they have done in the previous week. That is all we are asking for. And so the Office of Personnel and Management sent out additional guidance last night. Those responses should be directed to agency leadership, and the president defers to his cabinet secretaries, who he's obviously entrusted to pursue the guidance relative to their specific workforce. And for some of the agencies that you've seen who have said, please don't send these emails, it's in their best interest for that specific agency, and the president supports that. And let me be very clear, the president and Elon, his entire cabinet, are working as one unified team. And they are implementing these very common sense solutions. You're welcome. Jackie.
Thank you. One follow-up on that question. So about the deadline, Alina Habba said that you have until tonight. Elon Musk said a failure to respond a second time would result in termination. So is that a real deadline? Should federal workers be looking to that guidance, or should they be looking to the agency heads? Like, what is the actual deadline?
So again, the agency heads will determine the best practices for their employees at their specific agencies. Again, this was an idea that Elon come up with. Doge worked with OPM to actually implement the idea, and the secretaries are responsible for their specific workforce. And this is true of the hirings and the firings that have taken place. And we advise federal workers, unless your agency has dictated you not to respond to this email. In fact, I can announce that we've had more than 1 million workers who have chosen to participate in this very simple task of, again, sending 5 bullet points to your direct supervisor or manager, CCing OPM. I actually participated in myself. It took me about a minute and a half to think of 5 things I did last week. I do 5 things in about 10 minutes, and all federal workers should be working at the same pace that President Trump is working and moving. We have a country to save, and we want this federal government to be responsive to the needs of the American people who re-elected this president to have historic, massive reform, and that's what the intention of this idea is.
Can you clarify one thing, though? Because Elon Musk also said that a reason that they wanted this 5 things email was just to see if people are actually alive. Citing that there are some federal workers who might not even be alive. So meantime, NBC is reporting that these responses are going to go into an AI generator to evaluate whether these jobs are necessary. So is it just to see if people are actually working, or is it an effort to maybe cut some of those jobs?
I have not seen that NBC News report, and I haven't heard that from Doge or from Elon himself. Again, this is to ensure that federal workers are not ripping off American taxpayers, that they are showing up to the office, and that they are doing their jobs. That's what the American people expect, and it's a very simple task to complete. I did it myself, and I was more than happy to do it because I'm very grateful that I am serving the American people on the American taxpayers' dime.
Do you think Doge should hire a spokesperson just so that Elon Musk doesn't put out tweets that then confuse federal workers?
Are my press briefings not good enough for you, Jackie?
This moment that she knew.